Good afternoon, right on time. Thank you so much for being here today. We'd love to have lots of thoughts, insights from our esteemed panel members, former colleagues, friends, fellow professionals. So we'll try to keep it as interactive as possible and as short also as possible. All right, can we get started with a quick round of introduction, please? Starting with you, John.
Does it work? Okay. Hi, this is Mili. I'm Senior Director of Systems Engineering for Fortinet. We call the International Emerging Regions, covering Africa, Middle East, Turkey, and Central Eastern Europe. I'm also part of Fortinet CTO office, so my other job is to help companies shape the roadmap from the field requirements to shape our strategic technologies ahead. Thank you.
Hello, hi. My name is Satya Murthy. I'm the Sales Director for IDM Technologies.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jayesh Nandanan. I'm Head of Information Security and GRC for Mediclinic Middle East. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Munish and I'm working in Shobha Realty, luxury real estate for quite time. I'm leading cybersecurity in the whole Shobha group. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Mansoor here. I work for IHS Towers. I have nearly 2 decades of experience in designing IT, IoT, and industrial cybersecurity solutions, and I'm the co-author of the book, Implementing Zero Trust in Hybrid Cloud Environments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. So our first question, let's start off with cloud security, one of the hot topics besides AI. We all have gone through the cloud journey in bits and pieces or transformational approach in one way or the other. Today, cloud is everywhere, whether we are using SaaS, IaaS or PaaS, we are using cloud, some sort of cloud. So let me start off with Mansoor. So how has been the shift of cloud journey, especially when it comes to securing cloud resources? What is your take on it, your journey, and some of the learnings that you have had?
Well, it's an interesting journey, by the way. We have been through an evolution of moving towards the cloud. So if you see, maybe a decade ago, organizations were very reluctant to move towards the cloud. But right now, you will find cloud in each and every organization in one way, shape, or form, whether it's the private cloud or it's the public cloud. When we talk about specifically about security, there has been an exponential growth when we talk about the different solutions. We have seen the access control solutions, we have seen cybersecurity posture hygiene solutions, we have seen CSPMs, cloud security posture management, which we term as the Dr. Cloud. So it maintains the overall cybersecurity hygiene in the cloud environments. We have CNAPP, cloud and network access protection. So, I mean, it's a whole evolution. When we also include the DevOps thing, so that gave a whole new paradigm to the cloud security transformation. It really introduced quite a lot of new threats, starting off from insider threats all the way towards when you expose your asset to the internet. So yeah, the transformation has been exponential and the growth has been really amazing. But now I feel that the organizations are reaching up to a maturity level where they think that we are considerably secure when we talk about cloud, because cloud is something which is always connected on the internet, and when you're connected, you're always vulnerable. So yeah, the journey has been really interesting, and it has been a very lesson learned thing.
Thank you so much, Mansoor. I think you've touched on 2 important points, that cloud is nothing but another evolution of technology. And you've also mentioned about connectedness, right? So the vulnerabilities and risks that are there. So we've got panelists who are from various industries, right? We've got healthcare industry, we've got real estate industry, and we've got technology services. So let's talk about in our own view and our own experience of how did we deal with the risks, specifically pertaining to the industry we are in. If I can start off with Munish.
Yeah. Hi. So the industry I'm working in is, as a whole, I'll not point out someone, but as a whole, it's a very distributed industry where there are hardly regulations as compared to different strict domains like finance, healthcare, and all. But the real estate industry and the commodity, these have not come across a very stringent policies so far. So cloud is actually, according to me, is a cloud. So there are a lot of visibility is not there. So what is going inside? People are, so we are living in the AI world. We are saying that it's all cloud cost-cutting era we are living in. So everyone is trying to move the data from on-prem to cloud environment. So are we really safe? Are we monitoring what is going inside? Or what we are sending is, are we able to manage this, categorize them? That is the, I think, challenge what we see over the time. And then managing users' data, managing organization credentials, managing the patent data, what we deal in, it is really a challenging job. But again, a lot of technologies are coming, sophisticated technologies like AI, what we are working on, and I think that will really help. As you mentioned, that the cloud is gradually maturing, visibility is increasing. I think that will really help to understand the cloud.
Amazing thoughts, Manish. So I think you've touched upon two important aspects as well. One is the regulation, right? Several industries are where it is regulated. You've got the checklist sort of approach of, you have to comply to these things, and a lot of things are already understood, and the risk is reduced to begin with in order to achieve that compliance or regulatory requirements. But when the industry is not regulated, you have to wear that risk hat and do your own due diligence on your own. So let me go across to Jayesh, who sort of comes from healthcare industry, and the regulation is slightly different there. In your own words, Jayesh, how has been your cloud security experience, and how did you deal with regulation per se?
Thanks, Jeevan. Excellent question. And what's interesting for us is that our industry is heavily regulated. So for us, it's a combination of risk, understanding the business need, and also meeting that regulatory requirement. And it is quite a hybrid model, because you want to bring the technology for the users, especially in healthcare. It's about patient care. You want to protect the patient privacy. We want to give them the care, and at the same time comply with the regulation. So it's a unique challenge what we sit within. So at times it does not just matter about solution, it's also about that people process part also. So it goes into the basics of training, it goes into the basics of awareness, making the end user understand what is the risk in that involved. And in healthcare, what is unique challenge is that everyone talks about identity management, access controls and all everything. But our users are sitting with very sensitive information. So if you take about a nurse, or if you take about a doctor, they are working with super sensitive data. You're talking with protected health information, personally identified information. Now these users in other industry, I'm talking from healthcare perspective, for them, you can bring segregation of duty, you can bring sensitive access, but I'm talking about a normal user who's working with sensitive access. So our role in securing that environment becomes quite challenging. So it's a combination what we have to bring in, and it's a customized way we have to bring in. So in a summarized way, I would say is that it's a blessing to have strict regulation, because it helps us to advocate to the business what we want to bring into the industry, what we want to sell in. So that's my take.
Thank you so much, Jayesh. I think you've nailed quite well on the topic of identity, right? One of the biggest risks in the cloud or two of the biggest risks in the cloud are misconfigurations and identity, excessive privileges. That's a good segue to talk to Satya out there, who comes from identity space. So Satya, if you could touch upon few elements of from a solution standpoint, from a technology evolution and solutioning standpoint, what are some of the identity-related challenges you are seeing currently in the market, and how does some of the solutions that you are advocating would help alleviate some of them?
Thank you, Jeevan. You're able to hear. Thank you very much for the question, and it's a wonderful question as well. Part of the cybersecurity or cloud security, we cannot simply miss the identity or identity and access management, privilege access management. To answer to your question, so identity and access management has been there for a very, very long time, and customers globally, regionally, has been using identity for a very long time in the region as well. When it comes to specifically over the cloud, this is where the transition is going to be happening. And just to address or just to take the journey into more successful implementation of the customer's environment, preparedness and the hygiene is very, very important. So we need to be doing a lot of assessment and understanding the environment, then proposing a solution that will be giving the success criteria. This is what I see a major area of improvements, not only from the technology standpoint as an integrator, but also the approaches, the policies, the processes, and more importantly, the team. Team not necessarily, not from the system integration point of view, but also the readiness from the client perspective as well. So it is going to be a collective exercise for us to take this journey into the cloud and make it more success, not only for the organization standpoint, but generally as a proper utilization of those technology. This is what I see one of the important steps for us to take into this exciting new journey, especially for our region.
Thank you, Satya. I think the point you talked about people goes, that speaks volumes, right? The amount of changes and improvements coming into cloud are unparalleled, right? Yesterday, you have certain capability, but today is completely different capability or addition of capability. Having a right partner, having the right competency, if I were to call it, in terms of engineering, configuring cloud and supporting that cloud environments goes a long way, because it's never done. Unlike on-prem systems, you configure it and you forget it, right? In the cloud, you don't know what your developer is changing last night, right? It's constantly changing, and the people aspect, the process aspects definitely go a long way, and thank you for that point. Let's go across to Melee. Obviously when we talk about cloud, the network, the traditional network perimeter has expanded, right? It's no longer on-prem. Identity is the new perimeter, that's a buzzword. How do you see it from Fortinet point of view? Some of the challenges that are addressed from your point of view, from a solutioning standpoint?
Thank you. So, like you said, cloud is another data center, indeed. But in terms of practice, we have some customers that do application updates every couple of minutes. So think about, from a vulnerability management perspective, patch management, this is very hard to cope up with. So that means, while the basics, the fundamentals, the macro segmentation, identity access, privileged access management, all these addiction technologies for IT environments are still valid for the cloud, the way we implement or the way we use it should be changing. But again, it doesn't have to be another silo in our ecosystem, so it should be part of our architecture. So that means we need to first, like you mentioned, we need to first of all understand our business-related threats. While some threats are common for everyone, some related to geography, some related to healthcare, some related to finance, different threat actors, different threats are on the internet. So first we need to understand our business priorities. Then we can use the frameworks like CIS, NIST, there are lots of acronyms. MITRE has a more technical, detailed way of how adversaries use tactics, techniques, and procedures. So based on your own environment or your own business related facts, you apply these frameworks to identify or to prioritize your investments, which vulnerabilities, which controls you need to prioritize first. Then the next step is you need to integrate everything on your on-prem with the cloud deployment. It can be hybrid or it can be multi-cloud, but the thing is you need to have an end-to-end visibility. This covers identities, this covers traffic anomalies, applications, and so on. So that means you need to have also the cloud-native capabilities in terms of scalability, in terms of understanding the code. There are lots of different ways to implement cloud architectures, but the fundamental change comes from the microservices architecture, which is coming from a monolithic background and from hours to days to updates, now to minutes. This is a big change, and the architecture is now much more distributed. So in that case, you need to adapt your technologies to understand what is the baseline, what is changing, what is the anomaly, and then you can detect this threat, especially in the runtime, which is a very hard thing to do. That requires experience, that requires a lot of algorithms to run together. But eventually the goal is to minimize the risk, understanding your own environment, business-related concepts, following the frameworks, integrating technologies end-to-end to have end-to-end visibility, and of course utilize AI and automation technologies to reduce the noise, let's say, because in a cloud is very noisy. I mean, you get tons of alerts, but most of them are not relevant to a real threat. So you need to be able to identify or find the hay in the haystack, needle in the haystack, as they call it. That requires a lot of adaptation, but still we require the basic fundamentals like zero trust, identity management. All those technologies are still valid, but the thing is to make them work together, have the machine learning algorithms supported. For example, for WAF, the legacy WAF solutions like web application firewall, it doesn't cope with today's modern environments, because you cannot cope with the changes. You cannot a policy every time that's changing in minutes. So you need to adapt this, you need to understand the traffic, and you need to create a baseline and follow up on that. It's just a technology example. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mele. I think even though it was a very elaborative answer, I think you've touched upon quite a lot of significant aspects into it. And just to summarize to our audience, you've talked about a few very, very important, which are also close to my heart. One is on the visibility side. The second is on the control side. You know, the controls. You talked about CIS controls and ISO controls, etc. And MITRE framework. So utilizing these controls, increasing that visibility, and understanding the risks in order to effectively manage the risk reduction aspect is obviously the goal. But let's move on to Mansoor, who actually started off by saying connectedness. We live in a world where the cloud systems that we use, whether it is AWS, Azure or GCP, whatever, and in whatever flavor or format, they are not working in silos. They're always connected to another system, right? Your cloud systems are talking to another system. In such a connected or hyper-connected environments, how do we ensure, in your own experience, if you have gone through that journey, if you can talk about how do we identify those risks in a connected systems, and what sort of risks do usually materialize, and how do we react to those?
Well, as you very rightly said, that the environment is very dynamic, and all of these solutions, today you log into those solutions, you might find a particular interface with a set of features. Tomorrow you log in, or maybe the next week, you might find a totally different set of features with a new interface. And when we talk about the multi-cloud environments, there are so many touch points that we are getting the logs from. And as Mele very rightly mentioned, that the amount of logs that we are getting is huge. So we need to employ automation or scripting just to get actionable intelligence out of those logs. Only getting the logs is one part of the story, which is fine. Yeah, we are getting logs, that's it, that's great. But what we are getting from those logs, are we getting some actionable intelligence, or is it just terabytes of data that is lying on our storage? So we need to employ scripting, and we need to employ it very well just to identify any anomalies that we are getting. Plus the integration of all of these solutions, it's very important. Because if you talk about any environment these days, there are tens of solutions, all of them are state of the art, but they are not working in silos, as you very rightly mentioned. So we need to integrate those solutions, just as I always say, just to get the big picture and the clear picture. So we as defenders, we need to understand the environment, that what are our assets, are we getting the right amount of logs from them, are we getting quality logs? That's another aspect, that the amount of log we are getting fine, but we should be getting quality logs. And we should be able to correlate those logs with the events that are happening, with the alerts that we are getting from different cybersecurity solutions, and just to get the clear and big picture. So once we get the big picture, and that is clear, then we can very rightly say that this is something that needs to be taken care of. And as part of the incident response, this is another aspect that we are working, that in terms of cloud incident, how do we respond to that incident? Because that's not on-prem. We cannot just shut down our servers and unplug them, right? So we need to respond accordingly. And my colleagues very rightly mentioned that every different sector has its own set of threats, own set of risks. So we need to understand the vision and the mission of the business, and we need to react accordingly, because security is there to support the business. We are not a say no to everything department. People say that security always refuses, that we are not going to allow this access or that sort of stuff. But we are not a say no to everything department. We are here to support the business and the mission and vision of the organization.
Thank you so much. Very well said. I think the analogy, if I can use from the previous panel, we are the brakes. So we are the brakes that are enabling the car to move faster. Thank you so much, Mansoor. You've really talked about an important aspect, which is continuous control and having that visibility, and the quality logs that you're mentioning. I think we all know from practice that getting the right amount of logs ingested from cloud systems, especially if we are using SaaS services or if you are using PaaS services, it's not as straightforward as we know, and there's no joy in just for the sake of bringing the log, but there's no visibility into it, and the issue just gets exaggerated if it becomes multi-cloud. You're dealing with multi-environments, etc. Let's go across to Munish, and then to the rest of the panelists. We'll just open up a question. If you can talk about the aspect of identity specifically. There are privileged identities, then there are normal user identities. Specifically with privileged identities, and how do we leverage automation? The point that Mansoor mentioned when it comes to identity and in reducing the risk. For example, someone who's got access to create an S3 bucket. If the policy is restricted for the S3 bucket to not be published outside as a public access, but do you have automation to go and scan that and reduce that public removal of access using the automation? So if you can talk about automation along with identity in your own experience, that will be helpful. Let's go across the table.
Yeah. So I think these are very important questions to understand, that how access is maintaining in the organization. Nowadays, role-based access we're talking about, but we are also talking about the privileged access. Those are the main accesses what my administrators have, or any organization for that matter. How can we make this automated and then routinely review for the governance perspective? That is very much important, because automation gives you the visibility, but when we talk about governance, all the time you cannot depend on the technology. Of course, technology is helping us, but governance on the top will give you a different visibility, and it will help you to control the accesses, automation of accesses, and the solutions. For example, CRM solutions, SaaS solutions you're talking about, a lot of controls you don't have in the cloud environment. So when I am doing a PT, can I do a PT on SaaS application, SAP solution. I cannot do that. So how I'm going to control my data? If my particular programmer or a developer writes a code and he messed up the database, what visibility do I have? How can I retrieve my data within limited time? That level of control, somebody mentioned in the last discussion that change management. Change management is a very important, strategy to introduce in the organization that any change happens, any role is given, any privilege access is given, that has to be controlled. This, I think this is the main key, what I understand. And any solution, we are talking about my backup policy, for example. That doesn't work for the cloud environment. So how can I think we'll have to think of a different kind of some maybe using AI technology, sophisticated solutions, like you mentioned, threat intelligence, detection. Can I retrieve my all logs? I cannot. Even if I retrieve, what is the a percentage of valuable of that logs? So I think we will have to understand and rethink and maybe think with the technology to modernize the solution by finding and leveraging AI technology to automate the system. That is the only, I think, way. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Jayesh?
Again, like Manish, you should have left something for me to speak. You have covered all the essence part. On a serious note, what is a other big challenge or where we can leverage? And coming from our industry, where I said regulation is very strict for us, we can leverage, but within this region, not much of technology is available that from a healthcare perspective we can access, purely because of there is regulatory restrictions in place. So we will not be able to utilize some technologies and all everything. And that brings another unique challenge for us, is that like we have to upskill our resources. We need to look into the resources whom can be developed, groomed and trained so that we can quickly respond. And that helped us to tap onto something unique services, which is quite common, is the MDR. As Manish said, like you need to, you have the logs, you have to respond and all everything like that. How quickly can you do that? That's where the combination of a SOAR, an MDR or automation plays the part. How quickly can you respond to the things? So that's the whole part, upskilling of your resources to respond once you get an alert. Okay, you need to action on it. How do you do it and all that? So that's how, in addition to what Manish has covered a little bit, I wanted to add on.
Thank you, Jayesh. I think we are at the top of the hour. We will just go quickly over to Satya and Mele. If two of you could touch upon some other elements which the gentlemen have already not spoken about, which would be valuable to the audience here.
Absolutely, thank you so very much. Again, coming back to the identity, I just wanted to emphasize on two elements of it. The typical use cases, we are all used to it, the joiner, mover, lever, the airbags and things like that. But if you look at the customer standpoint, the customer experiences standpoint, that is also equally very, very important. So I will just introduce single sign-on, for example, which will dramatically improvise the productivity of them. And if you look at it, close to 80 to 84% of the attacks or breaches are happening because of weaker password or because of the password snatch and things like that. What if we kind of eliminate the whole thing and introduce a passwordless experience using our biometric or things like that? We are all used to, we are all using it from phones and things like that. Might as well, extend that to our enterprises using, for example, UiPass or Emirates ID, for example, as an authoritative source to integrate and utilize that as a very trusted source of authentication. So these are some of the key elements also can be utilized when it comes to the customer experiences standpoint.
Thank you, Satya.
Thank you. I can maybe touch from the zero trust point again. So IGA and PAM, privileged access management, is like foundational, but in the world of cloud, where everything is distributed, almost 85% of the traffic from our 2024 report, cloud security report, is encrypted now, and now cloud applications make the world's half of the traffic, internet traffic today. So that means We need to evolve this into something what I can call as contextual identity. So it's not just about the username, the password, or the device you are logging in, but you need to have rules in place or machine learning kind of capabilities that will understand an anomaly. So if you are suddenly trying to upload a huge number of files to a personal Dropbox, for example, that should be triggered and that should be stopped. So not only the authentication or the authorization, but the status, the posture, the changing concepts should be dynamic, and you need to adapt dynamically, and you need to stop something in the middle before requiring a static rule, let's say.
Thank you so much. I think excellent thoughts from the panelist here. If I can just summarize in just few seconds, cloud is here to stay. It's not going away. Majority of the AI tools that are out there and plethora of applications are natively built on the cloud. So as the guardians of security, it is our role to identify these risks on a continual basis, having to do with governance, having to do with people, and the processes, having the right competency in place, engineering it properly, like Melly mentioned, well architected using the frameworks and standards and all of that. And it is a game that we constantly need to play. And I think the panelists here have talked about all these elements, must have given you quite a lot of insights into it. If there are any questions, I'm not sure if we have time for that, but I think one or two questions can be handled. Yeah, I think we have a question there.
Hello. So hi everyone. So just wanted to understand, because we all are cybersecurity professionals, and the cloud security plays a very pivotal role as a part of our cybersecurity strategy, irrespective of the industry where we belong to. My query is specifically on the cybersecurity risk assessment or a management perspective. What is the extra snippet? What is the extra delta as a CISO I need to perform? Keeping in view, we have the emerging technologies like GenAI, Copilot, ChatGPT Enterprise has coming. We have the third-party vendors who are coming up with a SaaS-based application which is embedded AI within it, and then we have a data privacy aspect. So what on a cybersecurity risk assessment or a management perspective extra delta me as a CISO needs to take care of specifically on the cloud?
Does any of our panelists would like to take the answer? If I can respond just a minute, I think the foundation remains same. As risk professionals, we need to assess the risks from the components point of view, from people, process, technology elements. Having said that, there is an emerging category called AI security posture management. So all the components that are used within these Gen AI applications or components built in the cloud, we need to assess for security posture. That is my take, and please feel free to add to that, please.
I think this is a technology perspective. I'm talking about the people and process perspective. So we have to be vigilant. That is the first, I think, answer. We being security professionals, it is not only our job. So everyone, what data is going inside people, we have to make people aware that what data has to go inside. So you just want the point that data privacy. Data privacy is now coming up, is in a very buzzword, and it has a potential. It is actually we have to think about that, how we can control the data, because when the data goes outside, what control do we have? We are living in the hybrid environment. We have Azure, Microsoft, GCP, data is sitting inside, data is going outside the country. What regulations we're talking about? If the awareness from people perspective we don't have here in the organization, this is the only way I think we can knock people every time, every day, that this is the data goes outside. You have to be cautious what data goes inside. Your patent documents, your organization credentials, financial data is going irrespective of domain. So that people perspective has to be very, very strong. And of course, you have governance on the top. That really helps us to control the environment, because we are under law. We have to maintain that. That will really help.
Thank you so much. I think that's pretty much the time we have left. Thank you so much, panelists. I hope it was informative.